With the release of GQuuuuuuX Beginning, we got a good look at their take on the iconic MS-06 Zaku. And well, despite being meant to be the same machine, it does look very different. And what is also quite different is how the design evolved. So today, let's go over all of the different Zakus that we know so far from the alternate universal century known as GQuuuuuuX. The beginning is of course very similar, with just the standard MS-06. Made by Zeonic, this was a highly versatile weapons platform that far exceeded the Federation's offerings in just about every regard. It was agile, easy to maintain, easy to produce, easy to pilot, and it could be outfitted with a variety of weapons, making this thing usable in anything from guerrilla warfare to fighting against other mobile suits. Its standard equipment consisted of a Zaku machine gun, a heat hawk, and cracker grenades, but it also had access to much more. Another very usable feature of the Zaku was that it could be quickly converted from space use to ground use, and also vice versa. The machine was produced in high numbers and immediately became the Principality of Zeon's main machine. One interesting difference then with the main timeline is that it's said to be a development of the MS-05 Zaku, which here is listed as the Zero Zaku, meaning that there is a good chance that in GQuuuuuuX, the MS-06 isn't the Zaku 2, but the Zaku 1. During the 1 Year War then, we also see some variants popping up, two of which we know about for now. The first one is the MS-06S Char's Zaku, which is of course the personal commander type Zaku belonging to Char Aznable, which he then used until he captured the RX-7802 at Site 7. The differences with the regular Zaku are a commander antenna, a red color scheme, and most likely also better performance. The second one then is a Zaku that was captured by the Federation. This machine was used for gathering information about mobile suit combat and would later on also be used as an escort machine for the RX-7801 Gundam. Unfortunately, not to great success. The machine was repainted in a high visibility yellow color scheme, and its shoulder armor varies slightly from that of the standard MS-06. There's no right shoulder shield, and the left shoulder pauldron doesn't have the spikes, meaning that perhaps it was repaired with parts from the MS-05. Before we move on to the post-war variants then, I first want to quickly go over the Musai, because here again we have an interesting difference with the standard version. At first glance, it might be roughly the same, just in a slightly different style, but then you notice that it's carrying a container. And this container is where all of the mobile suit stuff happens. So rather than cramming the mobile suits inside of its hull, this Musai carries them in an optional container hangar. The Musai also has a Minovsky particle scattering device as standard equipment, and it was available in both 3-turret and 2-turret configurations. In the original series, the 2-turret configuration was needed in order to make more space for mobile suits in the hull, so with the mobile suits now being placed inside of the container, I wonder what the explanation for the 2-turret version is going to be in GQuuuuuuX, if we get one at all. Also, the Musai pictured here is the Falmer, which has a slightly different bridge. Now then, we go to Universal Century 0085, where the majority of GQuuuuuuX will be taking place. And our first Zaku variant here does a very good job of setting the worldview. The MS-06 SSP Police Zaku. Although, one thing that I would like to add here is that the Japanese name makes it very clear that this isn't just a police Zaku. It is a military and police Zaku. Rather than being used by Zeon, this Zaku is actually used by Site 6 for self-defense purposes. Fearing possible Zeon aggression, the decision was made to upgun their defenses, because prior to adopting the police Zaku, The only quote-unquote force that was guarding the Site 6 airspace was quite literally just a kind of coast guard. This was now transformed into a militarized police force, complete with Zakus. The standard version comes with a police light on the shoulders, and for weapons it has a baton, an extra shield on the left arm, and even a Zaku machine gun. I also like to imagine that it has a police siren. For the special forces then, there is the MS-06 SSPEX, also known as the Police Zaku Special Forces type. Or again, the Military and Police Zaku Special Forces type if we're going by the Japanese name. And sufficient to say, this thing placed more of an emphasis on the military part than the police part. The police lights on the shoulders are gone, the head has been modified and has room for a commander antenna, it's now outfitted with a high-performance, high-mobility backpack, and it's armed with a modified Zaku machine gun. This version in particular, then, caused some people to question if these machines weren't a bit overkill for just self-defense purposes. When faced with an enemy armed with mass-production Gundams, though, I would say that the answer to that question is probably no. Make it more overkill. And it wasn't just police forces making use of the Zaku overstock. Many of these machines would also end up in the hands of civilians for a variety of purposes. With the main one, of course, being, at least officially, construction. Many Zakus were bought up by construction companies and then modified for specific jobs. Some were used more or less as is, whereas others were more extensively modified with crane arms and other such devices. Overall, with or without modifications, the Zaku proved to be an effective construction vehicle. Less legal then were the Zakus used in the clan battles, which were pretty much just illegal underground fight rings. The Zakus were also originally sold as construction vehicles, and therefore had all of their fighting capabilities wiped, but it wouldn't take long for people to figure out how to tune up one of these construction Zakus and give it back its ability to fight. Due to the nature of these machines, there is no standard configuration, and the machines can vary wildly from one owner to another. With one such unit being the Zaku Pomeranian custom, used by the Pomeranian team. The Zaku belonged to the Kaneban junk shop and featured a modified head, different shoulder armor, an unarmored left arm with handlebars instead of armor, and a third-party replica Heathawk called the Tomenosuke Heathawk. At some point, its combat device broke, rendering it unable to fight, and I'm guessing that at that point, the Tomenosuke Heathawk was transferred to its successor, the GQuuuuuuX. But that thing's not a Zaku, so this is all that we know so far about these alternate Zakus with some seriously thick thighs. So as always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.